All right. Welcome to ACAB Radio. This is episode 48. Thank you all for tuning in. We're your hosts, Jay Lyfer, Kelly Special K Patterson. And this is our first show in 3 weeks.
Years.
Yeah, so it's a lot of stuff to cover. So we'll do our best. Let's see.
We're not saying that Facebook called us up and threatened us and told us that we were not allowed to do shows for 3 weeks, but that may have happened.
So we'll jump right in here.
Somebody called Mr. Z called us.
Direct line.
He didn't say his full name, but we know.
So there's been a lot going on, speaking of Facebook. A lot of officers getting in trouble because of racist posts or violent, threatening posts they've made on Facebook. And they were stupid enough, these officers were dumb enough to do it in public forums, whether it's public groups, group chats, or public posts on their timelines or friends' timelines. And there was a group that looked into it. Forget their name.
The Plainview Project, I think is the name.
Yes, there it is.
Which I think that's out of Philadelphia.
Yeah, and they're saying there was more than 300 Philadelphia police officers that they were able to identify posts from. Post things like one young suspect should have been taken out back and beaten down like a rabid animal that he is, and that was a sergeant.
Actually, put down, which actually means killing him. So it's a little worse than...
Not taken down, my bad. Yeah, put down, killing him. Yeah, so another sergeant posting something, said death to Islam. So yeah, a lot of violent posts, racist posts.
Yeah, so that's the thing is, like, that's what they're saying publicly.
Right.
So, and that's a small subset of them that are dumb enough to post that publicly.
Yeah.
But it's, a view into their mindset. So you can talk about, like, First Amendment rights and all that stuff. You still have the right to post that shit. You just don't have the right to be considered impartial when you're posting shit about killing people.
Yeah, and how are you supposed to be...
You have the opportunity to kill people.
Yeah, so when you're making posts like this, especially the ones about, Islamophobic posts or racist posts, how are you supposed to be out there patrolling the streets in an impartial manner if you have these sentiments, right? If you believe that...
And by some coincidence, people are getting taken out back and put down.
Exactly. There's a lot of other shady shit they were saying. Hold on. See if I can pull it up. Then there's stuff like it's a good day for a chokehold. If the Confederate flag is racist, then so is Black History Month. So, how many excessive force complaints does this St. Louis police officer have when he's saying shit like this? I wonder. And there was another article that this is nationwide. This isn't just... This one focused on Philadelphia, but there's another article we're going to go over that there were a bunch in Dallas as well. See St. Louis, Phoenix. There was a pretty thorough investigation. And, they cast a pretty wide net and were able to catch a whole bunch of officers saying some really fucked up shit. And there's other stories we're going to get into as well, where it's not just police officers. There's Border Patrol agents that had a group where they were saying some pretty gnarly shit. The next article we wanted to talk about... this is a not all heroes wear capes type of deal, but man slashes tires of police cars in broad daylight right near City Hall. So I don't know if I can get the guy's name here. And we're going to post all of these links into the comments section of this live stream, so you'll be able to check out these articles if you want to read more about him. Oh, they haven't caught him. I'm looking for his name, but they didn't catch the guy. So if you have any information, they're encouraging you to call. I'm encouraging you to, if you find out who this guy is, buy him a drink.
Some coffee.
Yeah.
Irish coffee.
This was pretty crazy. Portland Police Bureau will relax hiring standards with hopes of filling vacant positions. That also happened out here in Vegas when the city was growing, the economy was booming before the, Great Recession. But if you want to read more about them, yeah, you might want to mute that.
Sound was supposed to be off. I don't know.
So out here in Vegas, they did the same thing where they relaxed the hiring standards, and a bunch of officers that shouldn't have made it through the academy, they pushed them through because they were so desperate for police. And a lot of those officers went on to commit murder, killed a bunch of unarmed people. They were all involved in officer-involved shootings. One of the most notable being the Eric Scott case. So a lot of the people that came out of that era had a lot of excessive force complaints and things of that nature. So,
and the thing about it is, they're hiring as many cops as they can anyway. But now they're using the Raiders coming here as an excuse. They're using the Golden Knights as an excuse to hire more cops. And they've always used the Strip and the amount of tourists that come here as an excuse, because they claim that there's 6 million people living here because that's how many people come on vacation. So Vegas has in the metropolitan area about 2 million people, but they try to pump those numbers up more using the tourist stats as that, and that's what it is. It's just like there's only so many people you can hire before you start having to dig to the bottom of the well. And you've already got people that are trying to take advantage of the opportunities the police have, just like the scandal with the Catholic priests, which isn't that much different from the cops at this point, because basically what's happened with the priests is they would molest children, and instead of doing something about it, they would just transfer them to a different parish.
Exactly.
And
shuffle them around.
If anything, it's worse with the cops because they're not just molesting people, which they are. Sexual assault is huge, and domestic battery and that sort of thing. So they're abusing people that way, but they're also killing people. Not a lot of priests were murdering people, and they weren't walking around with guns, and they weren't, stopping people on the street.
Exactly.
So if anything, it's worse what's going on with the police right now.
Yep, gypsy cops. We've got one for a police chief here in Henderson, so we know all about it.
Yeah, he's working on his third killing,
Right. I'm just trying to share this into some police accountability groups while Facebook is still allowing me to do so.
For another 5 minutes or so.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm sure Mr. Z is on the phone right now, shutting some stuff down.
Shut him down. Yeah. Another story.
I've got a party going on my page. I got a watch party, so that's what that little sound was. That was supposed to be blocked out.
This article here in particular, they're making exceptions for Portland police officers, the new hires. The exceptions include things like neck tattoos. So, I mean, if an officer has a big swastika on his neck, or, the 2 thunderbolts or whatever, it's cool. You can still get hired.
Yeah, you can't get hired at Walmart, but you can get hired as a cop.
Exactly. So, it's just crazy.
And if you're in Philadelphia, I did a story on this, I think 2 years ago. But if you're in Philadelphia and you have an actual Nazi tattoo, then that's not violating policy. They actually ruled on that.
Man.
Because one of these cops that was out at a protest, they filmed him or took pictures of him with, tattoos on his forearms that were like old, like German tattoos. And he was a guy, when they researched him, he was a guy who did World War II reenactments. And coincidentally enough, he liked to pretend to be a Nazi. You know, that was his little reenactment.
Surprise,
part.
surprise.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's another story we're going to get into that just illustrates the cops and Klan go hand in hand. Seems like we have one of those stories every week, but yeah. And a good segue from this story, let me skip over to this other one. Portland police relaxing hiring standards. So then there's also...
Should say relaxing already low hiring standards.
Right. This year, 10 Philly police recruits resign after trying to cheat on open book exam.
Yeah.
So they're lowering the bar, lowering the standards, making it easier to become a cop by making it an open book exam. And
then they didn't feel confident enough. They wanted to fucking cheat. They couldn't look it up in their book fast enough, so they had to write the answers out.
Like, how low do you have to set the bar? Like, look, it's an open book and you're still cheating. It's so sad, man. So that ties into that for sure.
Yeah. Well, I think they're gonna make it a take-home exam now. So
I wouldn't be surprised. Nothing surprises me anymore, man. Let me get back to where we were. The next one is a local Las Vegas story talking about the school to prison pipeline. This is something that's been exacerbated by having all these school shootings and, problem, reaction, solution. The way to solve this problem is they put in resource officers, police officers into schools, and
so
then
they could stand out in the parking lot and watch it
and do nothing like the Broward cowards, right? But then they get bored and they end up pepper spraying kids and things that teachers used to handle forever. Now cops are handling it, and these kids are walking away with criminal charges.
That's the thing, is I haven't read that story, so I don't know if there's a breakdown on it, but most of those cases that were referred to the justice system are shit that would have never been a crime in the first place. It's a kid being a kid.
Right, exactly. That's the problem. But this goes even deeper, and they took a look at ethnicities. So 257 students were referred to the criminal justice system in May of 2019. In just 1 month in one city. Of those 257, 215 of them were black or Hispanic. So what's the difference there? 42 weren't people of color? That's a crazy statistic. So, it just goes to show the prison.
That's roughly a
sixth
of the students that were not minorities.
Yeah.
And I don't know what the combine between black and Latino people are, but I know it's maybe 5% black, and so it's less than 10% of the population if you're just being conservative, and 1/6 of them are or 5/6 of the people being cited are representative of 10% of the population. So
I see what you're
saying. Huge
saying.
disparity between
the
amount of people and the amount of people being cited.
Yeah, so you're taking a minority and they've become the majority of this statistic. You know what I mean? So that just shows you that they're targeting people of color. So it's sad to see police in schools aren't the answer.
So then that's the thing about it, the hype from the Columbine shootings, where all these cops being in schools came from. Originally, it would be security guards, and a lot of times unarmed security guards, because you're a hall monitor, and that's the majority of your so-called issues are going to be a kid being late to class or something, or being disruptive in class and not shutting up when the teacher tells them to, or not raising their hand before they go to the bathroom.
Right.
But the thing is, when you have the cops there, then when they're bored and they have no actual work to do, then they behave like cops. And guess what cops do? They go out and harass people and mess with people of color.
Exactly.
Especially.
Most definitely. Unfortunately.
Get a kid who doesn't pay for his milk and he's up for felony.
Right. This is a follow-up to a story that we had covered in the past. I'm not sure exactly which episode it was, but it was body cam footage that was released of an officer who was planting drugs on people in the community. And this in particular was meth being planted on a innocent grandma. And as a result of finding out that, this dude's corrupt.
So this is a feel-good story, actually. Those 119 people shouldn't have never been in jail for the first place for something that it potentially harms themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And even if they go out and commit a crime, there's a law against that crime already, so there's no reason really doing drugs in and of itself does nothing but harm yourself.
Exactly.
Even if you go out and you're desperate and you create some kind of tangential crime, there's a law against that crime that you can be punished for.
Right.
So the drugs itself doesn't need to be criminalized.
Yeah, it's a victimless crime. So that is a feel-good story. This is good news that 119 people, basically anybody who has a case involving this officer gets their case thrown out.
Yeah, and beyond just the fact that people shouldn't be prosecuted for something that only harms themselves, all of the abuses and violence from the police and using forfeiture laws and that sort of thing to outright rob people, even including quite a bit of innocent people, is another reason why that shouldn't be, the war on drugs should just be eliminated.
Exactly. And the war on drugs for sure.
The war on some drugs, actually.
Let's see. Next story here. Moving right along. We might get through all these stories.
Yeah.
Florida deputy arrested for trying to solicit a child in Polk County. Seems like every week, we have a handful of pedo cops.
Yeah.
This guy...
So is that is there a Polk County in Florida, or is that Florida and Ohio?
Let's check it out.
That seems to be Florida's crazy people in general, but then Ohio, the cops are just fucking insane out there. And
Florida.
Yeah. Well, Ohio, they'll show the,
Damn, 9-year-old. I didn't even realize she was. It's been a while since I read this. This was a few weeks ago. 9-year-old through a gaming app. Polk County, Florida. What's this lowlife's name? Okaloosa County Deputy Kansas Sadler Jr. Real life piece of shit.
Yeah. I'm sure his dad is proud that he's carrying his name on.
Right. This was a article on PNAC. Photography is not a crime. Newsmaven.io. Again, we'll share all these articles into the comments section after the show, but this was a New Mexico inmate who didn't want to move his cell, so they're trying to transport him from one cell to another, and he was restrained, and all these officers... let me see, did I queue up the video? No, not on this one. But basically, if you want to watch this video, you can go to the link. But it was something like 5 or 6 officers on top of this dude who's already shackled, and he's letting them know, I can't breathe. They didn't give a shit, and he died. It's just another unnecessary death, in custody death. We just had one out here last month, I believe. Nicholas Farrar was killed by Metro Police. He didn't even make it into a holding tank. He was taken out of the vehicle, the Metro Police officer's vehicle, and placed into a restraint chair. And in doing so, 2 officers were holding his head down between his knees, and he couldn't breathe. So even the coroner ruled it a homicide. Well, I don't know if it was a homicide, but ruled it asphyxiation. So
yeah, the thing is, a homicide just means it's not natural causes.
Yeah.
So that doesn't necessarily mean that they ruled that he was murdered.
Right.
But the jail like guards are often worse than the cops, the actual cops, because they're the people who couldn't qualify to be a cop, but they were, you know, close enough that they're allowing them to work in the jail to like prove themselves to be a cop. So
right, that happens a lot. They'll start in, you know, NDOC, the Nevada Department of Corrections.
So their standards are even lower than those cops in Portland, you know.
Right.
You know, they like their open book tests, they allow them to use a highlighter before. So
yeah, so that was fucked up. If you want to see the video, head over to News Maven. This is another feel-good story. So we've got a few articles that are good news. De Blasio limits NYPD involvement in school discipline in major win for social emotional learning. So like we were talking about, police in schools, they're trying to thwart the very problems that we were talking about. 1 year anniversary of the murder of Thurmond Blevins in Minnesota, I believe it was. Unicorn Riot had a good video. I'm actually going to play this so that I can continue to share this into other groups.
From the footage, you know, I basically watched my brother die.
Yep.
Just bleed out in the alley.
Yep.
And I seen his last moments. The impact it had on me was just devastating.
In June 2018, 31-year-old father of three, Thurmond June Blevins, was shot in the back and killed by Minneapolis police while running down an alley during a daytime foot chase.
Put your hands up!
We've documented numerous events which featured his family in the aftermath. We sat down with Justine Blevins, Thurmond's sister, who told us about what happened and spoke about the impact of his death. Was shot in the back and killed by Minneapolis police while running down an alley.
My brother was out with some friends, and he met up with one of his mothers of his daughters. It was a Saturday evening, and they were out, you know, just hanging out, chilling. And there was a call that went through 911 saying there was someone in the area that was shooting a gun. And they rolled up on my brother. They felt that he fit the description. My brother was sitting on the curb, him and his mother of his child. She had her toddler daughter with her in the stroller, and he had his dog, and they just rushed out at him. He didn't get a chance to ask what was going on, you know, what the situation was or anything. They came out telling him to put his hands up, cussing at him, very aggressive.
Put your fucking hands up now! Stop! Put your fucking hands up!
And my brother took off running. He, you know, continued to run about 2 blocks, and the police continued to pursue him. And he cut through an alley. That's when the first cop that was pursuing him just let off on him in the alley. And the other cop, there was 2 cops, Justin Smith and Ryan Kelly. And Ryan Kelly was behind him. And he came around and let his gun off as well, even though my brother was on the ground already dying. And, you know, his last words was, you know, please don't shoot me.
Please don't shoot me! Leave me alone! Please don't shoot me! Leave me alone! Please don't shoot me!
And he was just like, leave me alone. He had no idea what was going on. You know, he was asking questions while he was running, you know, and the cops were saying, you got a gun? He said, no, I don't.
Put your hands up! You got a gun, motherfucker! Yes, you do! Put it down! Put it down! I will fucking shoot you! Put your hands up! Put your hands up!
You know, they always want to say they're in fear. I didn't see no fear in that video. I seen fear for my brother. I felt that he was in fear. You guys didn't express no type of fear in that video footage.
Put it down! I will fucking shoot you! Put your hands up!
They gave him 2 different orders. Put it down, put your hands up. Which one is it? Because at this point, he's confused. He don't know what to do. And if you make a sudden move, there you go. You know, he had no way out of that situation.
Put your hands up! Leave me alone!
Please don't shoot me! Leave me alone! Please don't shoot me! Leave me alone!
My older brother, he couldn't even look at the footage because, you know, just watching one of your loved ones, you know, be gunned down like that. He never got a chance to turn around. He was just basically running for his life. And I just felt that seeing it, it kind of tormented me in a way because those images never go away, you know. They pop up in your head all the time, you know, and you get to thinking about things, tears get to falling down, you know, because it's like, you know it was wrong, what they did.
My name is Sydney Brown. I am the first cousin of Thurmond Blevins. Mike Freeman just yesterday announced that he will not prosecute Ryan Kelly and Justice Schmidt in regards to the murder, the execution of him.
Justice for who? Justice for you! Justice for who? Justice for you! We ready! We ready! We ready!
At this point, we're going through the BCA records, basically getting everything prepared, you know, to be given to a lawyer. We wanted to do the background work so that they didn't have to do it. And then when we got everything together, we can just hand them the file and said, here, you know, this is what we broke down, this is what we looked at.
Huh? All right,
So
I think...
guess we don't get to see what they looked at.
Yeah. I think we'll just end it there. That froze up. I was still trying to share this into groups so we can get some people tuned in here, but that's all good. So the next story, this is also a follow-up to a past story that we covered. That pussy that shot the Chihuahua. I don't know where it was. Do you remember? I want to say Texas, but I might be wrong.
Probably. It does look scary.
Yeah, look at him. Oh, man. My parents have a reindeer Chihuahua. Looks just like that. Looks like little Maxie. So that shit pissed me off when I saw the video from this. But at least
Like, how do
the cop was charged. I mean,
how you even have a straight face and tell somebody you're afraid of a Chihuahua?
seriously.
Like, even if it bites you, like, it's not gonna hurt.
Oh, Arkansas. Conway, Arkansas. Okay. Since our last show, there's been a lot of great articles on the Free Thought Project, so recommend people head over there, check it out. So I just wanted to give you guys that update that the cop was charged for shooting that Chihuahua. More good news.
We'll let you know when they let him off later.
Yeah, our next update, right?
Yeah, they drop those charges next month.
City gives $75,000 to man being tackled by Vallejo officer. So, there's a couple things I want to point out with this article. First of all, just how they pussyfoot around it with the headline. You know, that he was tackled. Like, why, you would think, why should somebody get $75,000 for being tackled? But when you watch the video, the dude was on his knees, you know, and the cop tackled him and then just started lighting him up, punching him.
Yeah.
And thankfully, there were bystanders that took out their cameras, filmed it. So, just want to say, always film the police, because if it wasn't for those videos going viral, this individual probably never would have gotten any justice. And they said, you know, he was acting erratically. That's like their catch-all phrase. Anytime that they, you know, do anything, oh, he was acting erratically. You know, not to bringing up Eric Scott again. They said the same thing about him. It's just bullshit. But the officer's name was Muniz Bottomley, and he had several other complaints of excessive force. Thankfully, he's no longer with Vallejo.
Those weren't on camera, I'm sure.
Yeah. I mean,
I'm sure he forgot to turn his body camera on.
Yeah, that happens all the time, right? But this guy, the victim who was brutalized, he was having a mental health episode. I mean, this guy was, in the street saying, "I'm God, I'm God." So.
Which is not illegal, by the way. You're allowed to claim that you're God.
I mean, yeah, Jesus did it, so.
And we don't know whether that guy was God or not. Nobody's really researched that, I don't think.
Yeah, so. It's just a mentally ill guy that didn't need to get his ass beat like that, so. That's just some good news. He was awarded $75,000. The bad news is it was California residents who paid it out of their tax dollars.
Yeah.
But maybe one day they'll start holding these officers accountable and making them pay out of pocket. There have been a few isolated incidences where they have. But
meanwhile, the headline should be "Man who was violently assaulted by crazed police officer."
By officer acting erratically. Cop starts yelling gun during a car stop until he realizes he's being filmed. So, once again, the value of filming police at work here. But the only problem is dealing with these social media and these big tech companies. I went to queue up this video, and the video's gone. Thanks a lot, YouTube. So, I mean, it was basically of a cop escalating a situation, screaming, stop resisting, gun, gun. And then he realizes he's being filmed, and, the person he's talking about doesn't have a gun, so he changed his tune real quick.
And they, in those academies, where they're lowering the standards, that's one of the things where they teach the cops is to yell, stop resisting, because the people around them, and, part of the thing is, you fill in the blanks. Like, so if you don't see a gun, but you hear a cop yelling gun,
then you just assume,
like, mentally, your instinct is to think that you saw a gun.
Mm-hmm.
And they train them that way on purpose. That way people will say, well, yeah, he had a gun.
Even if they didn't see it themselves. Exactly. Yep. Another story. Actually, I want to keep sharing this out, so let me play this. We had an officer-involved shooting here in Vegas. This is OIS number 10. Unfortunately, we still aren't allowed to attend these press conferences, or else we would have asked them some serious questions, but
those aren't welcome there.
Yeah, exactly. But hopefully...
Also, they're on pace because they're at number 10 and they're halfway through the year. So, 20 is their regular pace. So.
Yeah.
I don't know if they, they crunch the numbers and they say, hey, we haven't shot anybody in a while. We need to get this up.
Seriously.
Or if it just happens to work out that way. But 20 seems to be their magic number.
Yeah,
it's always,
at least a year.
Yeah.
That's what they average. So this guy, at the beginning of the video, it's a really short body cam footage. They only show a clip of it. They never show you the full thing. But you can see when the officer turns the corner, the guy takes the gun from his waistband and throws it over the wall. So he's trying to ditch the gun. And that's when the officer fires the first shot, missing. Luckily, that bullet didn't hit somebody walking on the sidewalk, but the guy puts his hands up, gets on his knees, and then goes like this, fixing his pants, and then the officer just lights him up. He falls down, falls forward, and while he's on his stomach, he just keeps shooting him. So it's a completely unnecessary shot, an unarmed person. Yeah, he did have a gun at one point, never pointed it at the officer. The main thing is that when he was shot by Metro, he was unarmed. So.
And when he continued to shoot him, he was
Yeah.
Police! Metro Police! Robert, give me your red.
So it's going to be right.
Show me your hands! Show me your hands!
There goes the gun. Oh.
Hey! What the hell?
Do not move! Get on the ground! Freeze! Show me your hands! Show me your hands! I am.
And while he's yelling,
He's got a
shoot me,
gun in his
you can
waistband.
pretty clearly see that his arms are to his side.
Yeah.
He's on the ground.
It's just rough,
And
dude. I hate watching that
The
shit.
cop states in his report that he saw him throw the gun over the fence. So it's not like he thought he had a gun. He knew,
Yeah.
he knew he had already ditched the gun.
even in the press conference, the police briefing, that we still can attend. But we have a court date coming up this month. I think it's next week. But hopefully once we beat these criminal charges that we were given for trying to attend these press conferences, once we beat that, then
they'll start holding them on the moon to make sure that we can't.
Hopefully we they'll be forced, court ordered to allow us to enter or something. That's what I'm hopeful for. But
yeah, I'm gonna hold my breath for that.
Shit. What else here?
Well, you know that one cop has been a fan for 10 years, so he'll update us, I'm sure.
Yeah, we got to get that body cam footage of the stuff that he said about you. This was a story that you shared on Nevada Cop Block. Bail set at $1 million for former Las Vegas cop accused of murdering ex-son-in-law, and
which he promptly paid. So
yeah.
Anybody who talks about this underpaid cop shit, that's bullshit.
Shot her son-in-law at least 10 times, including once to the head. It's just crazy.
Yeah, the prosecutor, classified it as an execution, an ambush, actually. So, there's not a whole lot of details of exactly what happened, but it sounds like basically they got into an argument and she just pulled out her gun and went crazy on the guy.
Yeah, sounds about right. I just, I'm not looking forward to the update on this. Yeah, she's been arrested and she's been charged and a high bail, which she posted, but we already know she's going to get some sweetheart deal. Yeah. Sister in blue type of thing.
Yeah, if anything, she'll get a plea bargain, probably probation, like that fire chief.
Like this fire chief here?
Yeah.
This
unfortunately was forced to have sex with a 15-year-old.
Yeah, and the judge. What did the judge say?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Basically apologized to him for having to give him probation.
I'm sorry this is happening to you.
Yeah. Yeah, you had done nothing but serve our community for your entire career, and to have this happen to you is really truly a tragedy.
Yeah. So. But we do try to cover the police, the fire, as well as police.
Yeah, that cop who's been following us for 10 years, he's probably happy now because we're talking about the fire department, because that was his big complaint. We don't give the fire department enough shit. So
we do, just to be fair, we do. Anytime.
Because usually when they show up at your house and it's on fire, they don't spray you with the hose. They spray the fire, so it's a little different. Most of the time we don't have to talk about the fire department because they actually do good stuff.
They'll be saving dogs instead of killing them, right?
Yeah. They don't just show up at your house and hit your dog with their shovel.
But the fucked up thing with this story is it was a 15-year-old girl. The fire chief took her to the firehouse and had sex with her there. So underage, pedophile, having sex on the job, at the job. Yeah. It's gnarly. But good news here. Minneapolis cop who shot Justine Diamond.
Yeah, that was relatively good news.
Yeah, because only 12 years and, with good time and whatnot. Probably
he'll come up for parole and they'll say, well, you served the community as a cop before you shot that innocent woman.
Yeah.
They called you for help.
Yeah, they had to do something because the Australians were up in arms when they heard about this. Well, not up in arms because they don't have any arms there anymore, but they raised their arms. They were upset, and rightfully so, because that was just fucked up. So, but as you notice, it's not a white cop. Maybe if it was a white cop and a black woman from, somewhere other than a Western country, but since it was a white woman, Australian woman, and I don't know. I think that kind of shit does make a difference in our justice system. But
meanwhile, that guy was celebrated as the first Somali national hired as a police officer in Minneapolis. So he was another one of these award-winning cops. Just happened to go out and murder somebody right after he got his award.
Yeah, so that segues beautifully into. Let me skip around here.
There you go.
Yeah, this one
Officer of the
here.
Year.
Florida cop accused of racism, brutality, and sexual assault named Officer of the Year.
Yeah, he's got 3 investigations going right now.
This one here. Oops.
So that, the question you have to ask is, was that the only guy they could give that award to? And it probably was, because they probably have a bunch of other guys up for, some kind of investigations.
So this is on the Nevada Cop Block page. If you want to head over there, some good stories. A lot of the stories we're covering here, but also some other ones.
The police chief is going to review their process.
Yeah.
Make sure that people aren't being investigated for assault and sexual assault and racism and brutality before they get an award as the best officer in the whole state. I
mean, we were talking about this earlier, just how that's just how it goes.
Because you wouldn't think they'd check that,
But that's
you wouldn't think that'd already be maybe in the criteria that you're not under active
maybe not give them.
Yeah, gonna fucking check that up and
it's just crazy, man.
Probably create a checklist,
It's just crazy how so many officers.
They're probably gonna come out with like a maximum amount of investigations you can be under at the time when they give you the
more the better. I mean, that's the what did they say here? That's outstanding job performance. That's dedication to duty. That's unsullied moral character, exceptional community service, and professional police image. Somebody who's a racist, fucking sexual assault and brutality guy. Yeah. So we did skip a couple stories here. Here we go. Springfield City Council approves almost $500,000 for a police brutality settlement. Yeah. I mean, it's an old case, but pepper sprayed and used a baton on this guy when he was in his own home. And they won the case. So some good news. I guess this is good news. Broward Coward. 2 more of them shot from that shooting were fired. So, and these firings are what led to this other story we have here.
And people can carry on about like, oh, so you wouldn't be afraid of somebody shooting and stuff. But first of all, that's not my job to go in there. And secondly, if I was at a school and there was a guy in there shooting and I was outside with a gun and 4 or 5 of my buddies were there with me, I think I'd go in and try to stop the guy.
Right. So that story ties into this one here. Las Vegas police officer who froze during the 1 October shooting was also fired. He was
training a new recruit.
Yeah, let me show you how to be a fucking worthless officer.
And not only was he, a floor down from a guy who was raining bullets into a crowded group, he had 3 security guards with him plus this recruit. So there's 5 of them, and they didn't even try to confront this and stop the guy from murdering 52 people or 58 wasn't it?
Yeah.
And hundreds that were injured.
So it was the Broward Coward, the first one who was fired. I forget his name, but when that happened, a great investigative journalist out of Baltimore named Doug Papa. He's in the documentary What Happened in Vegas. If you haven't seen that, check it out, by Ramsey Dennison. But this guy Doug Papa writes for the Boston Examiner, and he did some great work during the 1 October shooting. So when this Broward Coward was fired, he's like, hey, I wonder if that coward from the Metro Police Department is still working. The one who was on the 31st floor, body camera footage showed him, not doing shit, and he admitted it in his police report that, he froze up and didn't do anything. And he had a few officers with him, all armed, ready to go, and yeah, he froze. But so Doug Papa looked into it, tried to anyways, and he called the same people who threw us out of the press conference, the Metro PIO office, called them up, sent them emails, and they were uncooperative.
Yeah,
they didn't
they
give him any
couldn't throw him
information.
off the phone, so they just ignored him.
Yeah, they just ignored him, or sent, I think, one email back that was
said "fuck you."
Yeah, didn't, basically, in so many words. So he had a source that was within the Metro Police Department, I believe, an officer who told him, yeah, that guy's not working there anymore. Hendricks, I think, was not the source, but the coward that was fired. Yeah, and they said, yeah, he's not working here anymore. So he broke the story, but not that he was fired, because he wasn't sure yet. In his article, he wasn't able to say, but he did a good job bashing Metro for their lack of transparency. And
I'd still like to see like the official announcement or whatever.
Where's the pink slip?
Yeah, official records, because Jesus Arevalo, who murdered Stanley Gibson, was supposedly fired, and they still refer to him as having been fired, even though he was allowed to apply for disability based on mental anguish from people pointing out that he murdered Stanley Gibson. That caused him to have mental problems, and so he's getting between 22 and 28,000 a year.
Yeah.
For disability. And unlike civilian disability and unlike government disability, when you work for the state, at least the state of Nevada, you're allowed to, you can't say, you don't have to say I'm not able to work. You're just not allowed to work in the same field. So he's not allowed to be a police officer anymore based on him getting that money. But at the same time, he can go out and get another job,
and
he's not
required.
Still
collect a check.
Yeah, so
Wow.
He's not required. Like if you get disability through Social Security, you're not allowed to work because you're saying I'm not able to work. But he's saying I'm not able to work as a police officer.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. Yeah, that's fucking crazy.
So the thing about that is they claim he was fired,
exactly.
But he was never fired. He was given basically, a going away gift of thousands of dollars a month.
And we see that a lot in the Valley, in Henderson too. They'll claim that people are fired, just like and Metro Officer Lapero, who killed Tashi Brown, they said he was fired, and then later it comes out that he was allowed to resign.
Yeah.
And a lot of things happen when they're allowed to resign. They're allowed to get their unpaid vacation time, their pensions, and they don't have a record, so they're able to go to other departments, and that's why we have this problem with gypsy cops.
That's the thing is, at least Jesus Arevalo is not allowed to be a cop anymore.
Yeah.
Even though he's probably getting some cushy security job from, somebody he met or some connection he has through the police force. But if the guy who froze and didn't bother to do anything during the shooting wasn't actually fired and was allowed to resign, he could go off and apply for a job at another police department.
Exactly.
And they'll hire him because they always do.
Yeah, I mean, like Portland said, they're desperate, people.
Yeah.
Police,
he's probably headed to Portland right now.
Right. Police departments all over the U.S. They're desperate. Nobody wants to be a piece of shit cop anymore. People are starting to see through the lies and the propaganda and for the truth that they're not here to protect and serve us. I mean, even the Supreme Court's ruled that. It's about revenue generation. It's about extortion. It's about enforcing all laws, good, bad, or indifferent, and that includes immoral laws and unjust laws like feeding the homeless or, smoking a plant. So they enforce all laws. That's why we say ACAB, because when you put on that costume, you agree that you will suspend your morality if you have any, which if you become a cop, I don't know if you do, but I'm not saying that outside of the job they're not good people. Maybe they are. some of them, but I mean, from story after story after story that I cover, I mean, you see a lot of them are pedophiles. A lot of them are, it's not a few bad apples. I mean, these are racist pieces of shit for the most part. So maybe there are a few that outside of the job, they're good people. But when you agree to basically sell your soul for a paycheck, you're saying, I'm going to enforce all laws, good, bad, or indifferent. I mean, I'm going to stop people from sharing food with, somebody who doesn't have a house, or... I mean, it's ridiculous that you would sign up for that.
And that's the thing is, good people do bad things and bad people do good things also.
Yeah.
So it's not black and white. It's not a pro wrestling match where, everybody's either, wearing a black hat or a white hat.
For sure.
But the thing is, the system is designed to prevent people from doing the right thing when it comes to that sort of issue. It's designed to make you protect cops.
Yep.
And there's, the system itself feeds off that. And I mean, there's verifiable times when cops have done the right thing and been retaliated against. That's why the saying is the only good cop is the next cop.
Yeah, because if you cross the thin blue line and you try to expose your brothers and sisters in blue, you see the corruption and you try to speak up or become a whistleblower or whatever, you get fired. Or like we saw, what was it? I don't know how long ago it was, a couple months or maybe last year in Baltimore. They killed him. Yeah. They killed that cop. So, I mean, that's why, another reason why I say all cops are bastards, because people choose not to speak up. So your silence is complicity. When you see somebody planting drugs or beating up somebody who didn't deserve it or murdering people, you see this kind of stuff and you don't say anything, you're just as guilty as that person because you allow this behavior to continue. You allow these rapists to continue to, be pedophiles and stuff like that. So
or when you're a New York cop and you have a quota to fill and you have to help out your buddy by framing an innocent person by, planting drugs on him.
Yeah.
Which is another story that came up, this week.
Yeah. So
cops actually testifying that they purposely framed innocent people because they had to fill their quota.
Yeah. So I think we skipped a few stories here. Let me see. We left off right about...
So many stories.
I know, man. It's just so many. This is another local story, I believe, right? Metro? Oh, Washington Metropolitan Police Department. Officer, this dude, former police officer caught in terrorism sting, fails to win lighter sentence. So at least he was given a longer sentence. But anyways, this guy was a neo-Nazi police officer who started working with the Islamic State, or so he thought, but it turned out this person was an FBI informant, and he was sending them money and stuff, and he got caught in this sting. But I always thought those two were exclusive, like you're either a Nazi, neo-Nazi who hates all of Islam, but this guy's apparently dabbles in both.
Well, I mean, there's a history there actually, because Arab states hate Israel. Mm-hmm. So there's actually a history of cooperation between Nazi groups and Arab extremists.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Based on the fact that they both hate Jews.
Gotcha. Yeah, that would make sense if you think about it like that. So this is an interesting read. It's on the Nevada Cop Block Facebook for more details on the story. It was pretty crazy. We do have a video for this one. Man following doctor's orders to walk around hospital arrested for stealing IV. The doctor told him, go walk around, move your legs, get your blood pumping. So he's got the little stand here with the IV, and cops show up and accuse him of stealing the IV. It's just so ridiculous. Let me play that real quick.
Doctor told me and that it's okay. How I'm seeing this? Yeah. It's bullshit. I know this game way too much. Officer Moore, you just came here. Your tone is here. Hey, stop. Let him.
Why is you kicking him? Don't kick him. The fuck? Don't kick shit.
Yeah, I'm gonna let them do what they need to do. No reason.
It's no reason at all.
Well, you're on city property, not hospital property.
He took me off hospital property.
Just call it public property, by the way. Everybody's allowed to be on.
Look at him. He got the biggest smile on his face. No.
It's kind of like what happened to you, like when you were filming the police and they
threw
you in the street and charged you with being in the street. It's like, I wasn't in the street till you put me there, and this guy wasn't off of hospital property until they took him off. I just can't believe this shit.
Yeah. It's always fun when they just make shit up. And, like, who the fuck wants to steal a bag of saline solution?
Yeah, I'm going to sell it on
if
the
you had,
black
like,
market.
I mean, you could maybe say, like, if you had, like, drugs, then maybe. But even then, it's kind of silly. Like, you're next to a hospital. Like,
yeah, so it's just peak police state, like, embodiment right there. Just shows you how ridiculous it's all gotten. And it also points to, like, the pharmaceutical industry. Like, I want to bring up how, I mean, that bag of saline costs like pennies on the dollar, and they charge insurance companies hundreds, if not thousands of dollars for a bag of saline. Like, it's just crazy. Next story here. We're kind of running out of time. Dallas police officer charged with 10 counts of tampering with government records. Oh, this story is just fucking hilarious. We'll post the link for you guys to read it, but I wrote a couple notes here. He was writing fake tickets. Officer Matthew Rushing. This guy who they found out because this guy got a ticket, and he's telling his friends, like, no, you don't understand. I never got a parking ticket. Like, this is... somebody's fucking with me. Like, I've never moved this car. His car has been in his driveway for like 10 years because he was going to give it to his nephew or something. I forget. Yeah. And all of a sudden there was a ticket in the window. And then as he's fighting that case for that ticket, he gets another one, and he never moved the car. So then there was like a internal affairs investigation, and this guy had been writing fake tickets probably to meet quotas. Yeah. Which is why, like, I think there needs to be a law passed where, whether it's speeding or parking infractions, whatever fine that they impose for your moving violation or whatever it is, when you go to court, you should be able to pay a nonprofit of your choice instead of paying the state. So what that does is it removes the incentive for the whole quota system for officers to even write these silly ass tickets, because they're not going to be getting the money for it, right? It's going to go to the nonprofits. So why would they even? It just would show how it's not about public safety. They would stop setting up these checkpoints and stop writing so many tickets if they weren't getting all the money from it. It's about extortion. It's not about public safety. So if you remove that incentive, we'd be a lot freer. We wouldn't have these cops, like road pirates on hiding out.
Except I'm sure the LVPPA is a nonprofit, so which is a police union here in Vegas.
Yeah.
I'm sure they'll let you pay there.
The other funny ass story. Oh no, this is not funny. U.S. Supreme Court rules that police can forcibly and warrantlessly carry out blood draws on unconscious drivers.
So after they beat them unconscious, then they're allowed to take blood.
Yeah, so if you refuse a breathalyzer or whatever, they could just beat the shit out of you and take your blood from you.
Which is already, in Nevada, it's already effectively the case, because if you don't submit, then they rule you as guilty.
Yeah, you don't even have to be unconscious here in Nevada. In Nevada, if you refuse a field sobriety test or a breathalyzer, they take you in and they draw your blood. You can't resist it. Trust me, I've tried. And they just strapped me into a chair and stuck a needle in my arm. Pike County Sheriff indicted on 16 charges after allegations he stole money from drug busts. Yeah. So, again, it's about the money. This shit was hilarious. Former officer indicted on theft of property charges. So this officer, she was moonlighting at a Walmart. She also worked at a Walmart. And this is Memphis PD Sonia Gilliam stealing at Walmart self-checkout where she worked. So,
she wasn't making enough money moonlighting, and she had to steal too.
Yeah, we can't make this shit up.
Which, by the way, all you have to do is put it on the bottom of the cart and then pretend you didn't notice, you know?
Yeah, don't make me show you how to steal at self-checkout, okay? You're doing it all wrong, obviously. No, the best thing... Well, I don't even want to say that. Never mind. I probably shouldn't give too many details here. Sorry, I'm still sharing this out.
I'm not saying you should do that. I'm just saying, you know...
I do not advocate, and I have never...
And don't wear a uniform in there that you're moonlighting in, you know, while you're stealing, because it's embarrassing to get arrested in a police uniform.
All right.
It shouldn't be. It should be kind of typical at this point. But
this story's on Nevada Cop Lock's Facebook page as well. I mean, it's just another crazy story. But ex-NYPD officer indicted on murder charge in New Orleans.
So he was fired from the NYPD because he was... it doesn't say what the result was, but he was charged with assault for fighting with a bouncer at a bar, which means he was drunk, you know. So
presumably, yeah, I would assume.
Well, we could assume he was just an asshole.
That's.
I'm giving him the benefit of the doubt that he was drunk and an asshole.
So he could chalk it up to the booze. 29-year-old Gerardo Bugalo Barrett. NYPD officer. He murdered an unarmed person in Louisiana, I believe it was, and claimed it was self-defense because the guy verbally threatened him. So he said some shit, so I killed him. He didn't have any, didn't come at me or hit me or assault me, but he said some things I didn't like.
In a really scary way.
Yeah. So I mean, at least the guy was indicted, but who knows what'll happen. We'll see. We'll be sure to follow up on it. This is a good video. It's over on YouTube, but it's posted on Nevada Cop Lock Facebook page again. So if you want to watch it, it's basically a New Jersey police lieutenant who did get arrested, so we'll give him that. But he was trying to get out of it, and he was fucking wasted. 0.36 BAC.
Which is like 4 times the legal limit.
Yeah, so definitely check that out. And if you haven't yet, go to our Facebook page and like it, Nevada Cop Lock. Police starting to enforce law that prohibits people living in their vehicles. So this is out of California. They passed something saying that making it illegal. I mean, rent's so damn high that... I think if you're making $50,000 or $60,000, you're still considered poverty level there in California, just because you can't afford housing. So a lot of people sleep in their vehicles. They have instituted programs like safe parking lots where businesses will sign up to where they'll allow you to stay.
But they've also had cops harass people who were staying like at a friend's house in the driveway and stuff like that, and.
Oh, for
that's
sure.
That's one of those laws where basically it gives the cops an opportunity to mess with people that they want to mess with.
Definitely. Most definitely. And it's just, look, man, if the rents weren't so high, if houses weren't so expensive, if there were good paying jobs, if there were shelters even, if there was enough beds for people, then we wouldn't have this problem. So... this is a symptom of the problem, and it's not how you go about trying to fix it. But this goes for people in RVs too. I mean,
well, and by the way, an RV is it's a recreational vehicle, so it's really designed like for a vacation or something. But it's essentially a house. I mean, it's a house on wheels, and if you have no other option, then they should just leave you the fuck alone.
Right.
It's bad enough that you got nowhere to live, but.
Exactly.
The one option you have, they're going to give you a ticket for.
This was... let me see if I can... This was a clip somebody shared. Our buddy Paul shared on Instagram from San Francisco Pride Parade. Here, play it real quick. Yeah, so I don't know if you want to get into the history for people who might not know.
Well, it was nice of the cops to reenact the original, reason for Pride. Because, the Stonewall riots were the cops going into a bar and rousting people. Because at that time it was illegal to be gay. It was legitimately illegal. And they would just go into bars and people who, transvestites and people that were trans and cross-dressers and people that were clearly gay were actually charged with a crime for their sexual orientation.
Yeah.
Not for harming anyone or doing anything that should be illegal.
Yeah.
And basically that was the first really big incident. Actually, there was one in San Francisco, the summer before that, but it didn't really get the coverage. But that was the first really heavily covered incident where basically LGBT people fought back against the police.
Mm-hmm.
And these, ridiculous arrests.
Which is why they don't want police in their parade, which I saw, I don't know where, it might have been Sacramento, somewhere. They ended up allowing police in the parade, so there was a counter pride, counter protest, where they didn't want them there.
There's been a push recently of police trying to join the parades,
mm-hmm.
and it's a big PR move.
Exactly,
a lot of nonsense, really.
They just want their picture in their uniforms, at the festival, so they could say, "See how tolerant we are, and we hire trans people, we hire gay people." But they extended invites to officers, just don't come in your uniform, right? So that just shows you it's all about PR for the officers. So that was a crazy clip. Thanks, Paul, for that one. Cleveland police homicide detective arrested on felonious assault charge. This is Daniel Lentz. He slammed his daughter into the ground and broke her wrist. And then the union president had the balls to call him a great officer. So leave it to the police unions to always back up their people.
Well, if he's willing to do that to his own daughter, then, he probably is pretty great at abusing people out there on the street.
And he's for sure going to get a sweetheart deal because he comes from a prominent police family out there in Cleveland. His dad was 40 years on the force, and then his grandpa, after 30 years, was killed in the line of duty. So
and besides, that case where they shot at that couple that were driving 117 times, and then they let those cops off because they couldn't figure out who was actually shooting. There's so many gunshots, because you wouldn't want to, punish everybody that was involved.
So I don't know. We'll follow this case closely and see what kind of sweetheart deal he gets. But at least he was arrested for felony assault for beating his daughters. But moving on to this ties into previous stories because it It's not just police, it's also Border Patrol getting in trouble for their posts on Facebook. The Mind Unleashed wrote a great article about it. Oh, well, that's where I found it. It's a ProPublica investigation, but yeah, and Border Patrol's known about these Facebook groups for a while. I think I had an article saying
I'm
as
sure
much.
they're allowed to share their links.
Yeah, but there was just some jacked up stuff, just like the police officers just saying, dirty stuff about migrants. Just shows you a glimpse into their minds, And people that can work in these concentration camps and do the things that they do, you have to have hate for these people. You have to dehumanize them in your mind in order to be able to do what you do. Make them drink out of toilets and whatnot. This was a crazy article. Free Thought Project. Police claim getting upset at video of cop attacking innocent mom makes you part of a hate group. So they're trying to say, oh, if this video pisses you off, then the sheriff of Fannin County, Texas, he said, you're just a law enforcement hate group. So you're not even allowed to get angry at police brutality anymore without being labeled a cop hater. It's just so ridiculous. I think there's only a couple more stories, and then we can wrap this up. Thank you all that are still tuned in. It's just so much for us to cover. East Bay City ends contract with licensed readers over fear of ICE use. So that's some more good news, but it's immediately followed by this story. Where is it? No. FBI and ICE using facial recognition to scan millions of driver licenses photos. So states like here in Nevada issue driver's licenses. New York's doing it now to undocumented folks, and now ICE is using those databases to help with facial recognition to catch these people. So that's just a joke. But then that ties into this article here about how facial recognition is so ineffective. 42 matches. Out of 42, only 8 were verified as correct, so an error rate of 81%.
Yeah, so they're scanning everybody's IDs.
Yeah.
And it's ICE, so they're trying to find undocumented immigrants, but the problem is they're scanning everybody's, and they're using this facial recognition, which is 20% effective, which is slightly better than their effectiveness at finding weapons at the airport. So
right, was like 90-something%.
Yeah, so if you're one of these people who are like, oh, it doesn't matter what they do at the border, and it doesn't matter,
maybe not for you specifically right now.
Well,
but
yeah, it's coming. But
it's coming.
So they're scanning your picture, regardless of their motivation behind it, and eventually they're going to figure out a reason why they want to scan it, and then
Yeah, these tools will be used against you. Yeah. Sooner
it's not going
to
stay at the border. That's the problem.
Exactly.
Yeah, those concentration camps are coming for you too.
Yeah. Sorry, still sharing this out into a few more groups. Alright, so we skipped around a bit. This is a follow-up to a story we covered before, but the woman who was captain saving migrants at sea, she was charged, I forget the charge, but the judge released her and said she was fulfilling her duty to protect life, so that's a win for humanity. Fuck. This was also a good news. Federal civil jury finds officers liable for excessive force in fatal 2016 police shooting. $2.6 million was awarded to the family of Anthony Nunez, who was killed on the 4th of July by police. He was 18 years old. 2 San Jose police officers shot and killed him. So the jury agreed that it was not justified.
Yeah, and that's the other thing is, they talk about the budget issues with the police, and when you look at and like Metro had their more cops tax that there was a 3-year fight over that before they finally managed to pass a watered down version of it. But when you look at the cops that are sitting at home because they shot somebody getting paid, if they just got rid of those guys, then that right there, they could hire another cop, and they could maybe do some research and not lower the standards and not give them open book tests, so they could actually be good cops. And the other thing about that is,
there are no good cops, but they would be better.
Well, we're living in a fantasy world now where they would actually hold cops to some kind of standards.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, we're getting into the fantasy realm now.
The other thing is, they wouldn't be paying off these millions and millions of dollars of settlements to families of people that they've abused or killed.
Right.
So they could use that to hire cops.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
All right. Couple more here. This is the article I was telling you about. Cops and Klan go hand in hand. Police fist bump MAGA fan Proud Boy members and escort far right group through DC streets after 4th of July. So there was a flag burning. I believe it was in DC. Yeah. There's a flag burning by some communist group. And only the communists were arrested, even though it was Proud Boys and other far right Nazis that were attacking these people for exercising their First Amendment rights. And the police, after they arrested the communists, they fist bumped, the proud white nationalists. So that was just another bullshit story.
And they also had one of the Border Patrol guys had regular email communications with the Proud Boys. So they recently came out with that up in Portland. So.
And then there was another event, or maybe it was the same one, but I saw footage of them showing off their tattoos, and they had white supremacist tattoos. So people try to say that they're just proud to be white, but they're white supremacists.
They're proud to be white supremacists.
Yeah, there you go. And there's footage of it from Ford Fisher. If you want to check it out, news to share, you can head over there. And then you got Portland police wanting anti-mask laws for protesters so they can identify people at protests. Yeah, this was just fucking hilarious. Look at this shoe. I'm gonna get you some of these, Kelly.
Yeah, ugly ass shoe.
And it was after the whole controversy with Kaepernick and Nike about the flag on the shoe.
Well, the thing about that is people are carrying on about, it's an American flag, and that's why it's, such a horrible thing that they canceled that. But the reason that was brought up and that it was canceled is because, like other good things, these white supremacists have adopted this as their, one of their iconic symbols. So the thing is they use that flag because it predates the end of slavery. So they're saying they want to go back to the days of slavery.
Yeah. So. And that's why he was against it. But yeah, it's just crazy to see them all get up in arms and want to burn some more shoes and whatever nonsense. Yeah. And Nike's laughing all the way to the bank. Yeah. We're almost done here. I'm sure everybody's heard about this by now. Starbucks Starbucks had kicked out some police officers because customers didn't feel safe. But then they issued a retraction. I'm sorry. They apologized for kicking out the cops.
Well, they told a group of armed people with a known history of violence that they shouldn't be there because they were scaring some of their customers.
Yeah, makes sense. It just sucks that they had to back out because I'm like, yes, no Starbucks boycott anymore. They're doing the right thing, and then they apologized. And then I heard, but I don't know if it's true. I haven't fact checked. I haven't read an article, but I heard that the guys got fired, right? Or I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know that for certain either, but I believe that's the case.
And then also, there's just a lot of propaganda going on now. They're trying to rally their base and, their supporters to boycott Starbucks.
Yeah, which I know, like, economy isn't, like, it's not as bad as it used to be. It's getting a little better, but it's not, spectacular. But if you're working a shitty job like Starbucks, you might want to, you could get another job like that pretty soon. So if you have the opportunity,
Yeah, don't worry too much about it. Don't let it get you down. Let's see. The good news with this is I saw like a poll that was done on Facebook, and it was tens of thousands of people had responded to it, and it asked, do you think they should have been kicked out, or do you think they should have been allowed to stay? Yeah. And like 80% of the tens of thousands of people said they were glad that they got kicked out. So that was awesome. DNA leads to cold case arrest. Ex-law enforcement officer charged in horrific sexual assaults. His name was Mark Manteuffel. He was 59. He was a federal prison guard, and it's 3 cases that they were able to prove so far. There's probably more, but 3 cases where he, not only raped and sexually assaulted them, but like beat them, tased them, dragged them away, things like that. And the craziest part is how these cold cases are being solved, and it's through those like Ancestry.com or 23andMe, these DNA like genealogy websites where a family member will do it to find out, where their roots come from, and
yeah,
and they end up fucking them. They end up solving.
They've also
murders.
got this giant backlog of rape kits that they never bothered to test.
Right.
And
I think that's why.
We had the case here where the cop, he was charged with murder, and the woman that was murdered was killed with his gun, and they knew that back in the 90s when the case came up, and he was also he went to San Diego, I believe it was either LA or San Diego, and he had an incident there, and they took his gun away, and they tested the gun, and that was the gun that had killed her. So he was in possession of the gun. They knew it was the gun that killed this woman. He had the opportunity, so there was every reason, to know that he did it.
Yeah.
But they didn't bother to test the DNA kit until later, when they randomly sent these DNA kits out, and then it popped up with his DNA. So that's the thing, is you wonder like how often it is that they're intentionally not testing these DNA kits because they know how many police officers are like raping prostitutes and
exactly
actually murdering people.
Yeah.
And they don't want to, they don't want to show that.
Yeah, the Metro officer that you were talking about, I mean, they had multiple opportunities to catch this guy. That whole story was crazy, how they had the gun, and out of California, they could have caught him, and the whole time he's still committing
So you look at
sexual assaults.
The reason why they the excuse for not testing it is budget. They didn't have the money to test it. But at the same time, like, if you have that much evidence on somebody and you have a rape kit, like, you could test that one kit, and it's not going to bankrupt the city.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But they just didn't bother to do it.
This is a follow-up to a story we talked about on a past episode, but Again, Broward Police Department out in Florida, where they beat up this young kid. I think it was 16 or something.
15.
Yeah. Oh, yep, 15 right there. 3 deputies charged after violent takedown of DeLuca Royal, 15-year-old. That's his hands on his head, but they slammed his head into the ground. So yeah, at least they've been charged, but we'll follow the story and see if they get a sweetheart deal or if it gets dismissed or what. New York eyes plan to clear criminal records for over 200,000 pot arrests. So that's awesome. Hopefully that happens. More good news. Charges dismissed for pipeline protesters. 7 of the 25 Lancaster pipeline protesters had charges dismissed. They're from the Lancasters Against Pipelines. They were protesting the Atlantic Sunrise Pipeline back in 2017. They were given community service and completed it, and their trespassing charges were dismissed. But if you ask me, they were already doing a community service by trying to stop that pipeline from going through their communities. But anyways, either way, good news. Small victory. This was just nuts right here. NYPD used deadly force to stop cyclist suspected of running red light.
Yeah. Well, he ran his bike over with his SUV to make sure that he was safe because he was running a red light.
Yeah.
So he actually states, I did that for your safety.
Yeah, I'm doing this for your safety. You ran a red light back there, so I ran you off the road with my vehicle to keep you safe.
And the crowd actually LOL'd.
Yeah, the whole
actually
crowd
says that they laughed out loud.
It's just gotten to that level. It's just completely ridiculous.
Yeah. And I'm sure they charged the guy with the cost of the bike because it was one of those rental bikes.
So we kind of already talked about this when we covered the Philly story, but yeah, there's also 25 Dallas police officers who are under investigation for their racist and violent posts.
And the total was 170 cops that had posted shit. So there's only 25 that they're investigating, but between the active duty and retired police, there's 170 individual cops that were posting shit on Facebook that was racist or violent.
Damn. I'm trying to see if we can get some of their posts. Oh, just another savage that needs to be exterminated. So they're saying some pretty ridiculous stuff here. Statistics show that criminals commit less crime after they've been shot. So yeah, more Islamophobia, racist comments. Yeah, it's from that same investigation we talked about earlier in this episode. So we're going to post all these links. Some of them have already been posted, as you can see, at Nevada Cop Block Facebook page. But we're going to post them in the comments section. And if you want to read further into it, you guys will have all of the links there. But that pretty much wraps it up for today's show. That was a long one. It's our first show in like 3 weeks, so we had a lot to cover. But thank you all for bearing with us, and we'll stay on top of it for the next week for you guys, and we'll have plenty more headlines to discuss with you all next week. So
we'll get the next city that suspends a bunch of people for racist and violent Facebook posts.
All right. So thank you all for tuning in.
Probably going to be Portland.
Yeah, Portland. Or Broward County.
Yeah.
They're always in the headlines. But yeah, thank you all for tuning in. Please like or share. We could, use some help beating these Facebook algorithms. Also, we could use your support over at Patreon, patreon.com. That's patreon.com/ACAB radio. We have one Patreon subscriber. So we'd like to put an S and make it plural. If we could say patrons. So somebody please join our lonely guy, our lonely supporter over there.
Don't let that guy just sit and watch it by himself.
I'm telling you, he's living the dream. He gets all the exclusive content that we put out. We just put one out, what was it, last week or 2 weeks ago? A full bonus episode for him. We have some t-shirts that if you become a Patreon supporter, we'll send t-shirts, stickers. We need some help. There's some software that we want to buy. All this equipment we had to come out of pocket for, so any help is greatly appreciated. There's some production value that we'd like to add to the show that does cost money, so any support is greatly appreciated. And tune in next week. Do we have any events coming up? I know Chalk the Police Date, right?
Yeah. So July 18th, which is that was our original court date for the citations that eventually turned into arrests. And that was one of the days we were charged for. So yeah, July 18th will be, Chalk the Police State Day.
Sweet. And so we'll have the details. We'll create a Facebook event with the time and location, but I believe it's a Thursday. So yeah, come out and join us. We're gonna probably do it, CCDC or the Regional Injustice Center or the courthouse, the federal courthouse. Who knows?
Might do all of them.
Yeah. Yeah, join us. The last one was fun. The Proud Boys came out and tried to stop us, but it didn't
do anything to be proud of.
It didn't. Yeah, nothing to be proud of. It was hilarious. So yeah, come out and join us. Also, every Friday we are sharing at the Care Complex down on Fourmaster. So if you have any donations, monetary or food or water, send us a message. We could use the help, or if you want to send some funds on PayPal or whatever, we could always use money for more bowls or sporks or whatever we need. But we're going to have iced coffee and sweets and snacks and whatever rescued food we're able to score from the grocery stores this Friday at the Care Complex. It's 200 Fourmaster Lane here in Las Vegas. We do it every Friday, so we could use your help. If you want to come down and enjoy a meal, please come join us. Or if you'd like to come and help volunteer, that would be great as well. Or if you have donations, hit us up. We'll come pick it up. But that's today's show. Next week, hopefully we'll be on time and start at noon. So join us next week for another episode.
That's another thing you shouldn't really hold your breath on, though.
Yeah, that's what's great about being an anarchist and not having bosses or masters. We can show up when we want and go live whenever. So yeah, hope you enjoyed the show. Thank you all for tuning in. Catch you next week.